Welcome, everyone. It's wonderful to see so many nice, friendly faces tonight for our Monday, October the 24th, 2022 Business Board meeting. I call the meeting to order. Mr. Bertram, would you call roll, please?
Mrs. Schreiber?
Here.
Mrs. Mulligan?
Here.
Dr. Urso?
Here.
Mr. Moore took an excused absence this evening, and I am going to also call future board member Verlena Stewart. She's here. Very good.
Would you mind standing for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, we have the exciting honor to approve a new board member. Is there a motion to approve Verlena Stewart as our new board member?
So moved. Second.
Ready for
Mrs.
this?
Schreiber?
Yes.
Mrs. Mulligan?
Oh, yes.
Dr. Urso?
Absolutely. Wow. This was a process for us. I'll speak for a minute while Mr. Bertram's catching up. I know we have an oath. Do we do the oath first, or can I say some words?
You can say some words.
All right, I'll say some words. And you can tell tonight what kind of person that we invited onto the board by the people who show up. And I've known, and this is not a knock against the people who we interviewed, because we interviewed some really neat people, engaged people, talented people, well-educated folks who I'm excited that in the next coming years we might see them sit up here also. But we had the honor to get to know Miss Stewart, who we already knew, even in that environment. And she brings just a demeanor, a reputation, a personality that lends well to the work we're doing. And you can absolutely tell she's a champion for Middletown, a champion for kids, and we're fortunate to have you sit up here with us. All right. I'd like to welcome Pastor William C. Roberts for the oath of office.
And Verlena.
And Verlena. See, this is the first time we've done this, and so I need people to walk with me, help me through this. Yeah, you're the most important part of it.
Sure.
Verlena, would you raise your right hand? Do you, Verlena Stewart, solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Ohio, and that you will faithfully and impartially discharge your duties as members of the Board of Education of the Middletown City District, Butler County, Ohio, to the best of your ability and in accordance with the laws now in effect and hereafter to be enacted during your continuance in said office and until your successor is elected and qualified?
I will.
Amen.
Yeah, and we, Mr. Bertram, I think purchased some cake. We have, looks like water, and and so please join us in welcoming Miss Stewart to the Board of Education.
We don't always have cake.
Yeah. We'll take a quick break and enjoy some cake. And all right, perfect.
Look at that mess down there. Somebody left
in and try to figure out some things.
We're safe. Marley and I didn't have any.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Are there any questions before voting?
No.
All right, then Mr. Bertram.
All right. Mrs. Mulligan,
Yes.
Dr. Urso,
Yes.
Mrs. Schreiber,
Yes.
Mrs. Stewart.
Yes.
Public participation this evening, Mr. Bertram?
I have not received any cards this evening.
All right, then, looks like we have a presentation. Ms. Megan Hurley speaking to us regarding Care Portal, which I've heard great things about. And so we welcome Ms. Hurley and we thank her and all the people who are helping with this exciting project.
Just a reminder for the board, about a year, actually almost a year to go to date, maybe 10 and a half months-ish, maybe 11. We came to the board with the idea of Care Portal. Ms. Hurley gave a great presentation. We're here tonight, a year later, just to give you an update, but also share with you some very exciting news. So excited to have our Care Portal team here today, doing to recognize our success liaisons who are here tonight as well. We've been very instrumental in really pushing this through and helping our families and our students. So turn it over to Ms. Hurley. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay,
Yep,
great.
you're good.
Yeah, thank you. I'm really excited to share with you what we've been doing for the last year. I'm going to go ahead and show you just a little bit about what Care Portal is, first of all. So,
Point it down here.
Oops. Sorry.
Well,
No, it's not
it's
you.
not the first time this happens. I'll just click for you.
Okay,
Make it easy.
perfect. Yeah, you can just go to the second slide on there.
Open the wrong one.
So, okay. Care Portal is a technology platform, ultimately, and connects the local church and the communities with with vulnerable families and the caseworkers working with those families. So it's all done through an online platform, and anyone can use it. It is actively being used right now in 29 states and 3 Canadian provinces, and it is being introduced around the globe. And just to kind of give you an idea of like how this is actually working, specifically in Middletown, we started with the whole district came on as our agency. And so our caseworkers are the success liaisons. So when they have a family who has some sort of barrier to success in the classroom, and that could be anything from the kid doesn't have shoes to wear or the family is about to be homeless. So it's a wide gamut of needs. They can put those out through this platform, and everyone in our network gets an email saying, there's a family with this need. And then anyone in that network can respond to the need and get connected to provide those items to that family. So that's how we've been doing that. And that's basically how it works. Care Portal also works with like children's services and different agencies. Here in Middletown, we are working exclusively with the schools. We've been doing that for, it'll be a year tomorrow. And in that time we've served, it's actually 712 children now. We served one more since I sent this over, with an economic impact of $70,450. So that's a huge number for a first year for this to be rolled out. We spent a lot of those first few months just trying to figure out how it works, and they were trying to figure out how it works and how do we work together to do this. But it's been super successful, and a few of the reasons why I think are, number one, Middletown is full of people who really care about the city and really care about needs and want to help. And we just need to be able to work together, and this tool helps us build that network so that we can have nonprofits and we can grab churches and we can grab various organizations and companies and all come together to really fill in whatever gaps we're missing, and we can do that through this tool. Another thing that's made it super successful is that it fit right in with the strategic plan that Middletown already had. And so you guys were already doing things to make something like this work. For example, by building out the success program the way that you have with a liaison in every single school. That has been such a huge piece of this, is that they're able to reach out to so many different families, and we're able to help them be more efficient when they do that. Before we started this, our church was already partnering with them some, and I remember, I think it was Paula, had a family who needed help with their car because that's what they used to get to work, and they couldn't afford the repairs for it. And she had called so many different people before I finally answered, and she was like, we just need $300 more and this family's car will be fixed. But she'd spent like 3 days calling and leaving messages and going back and forth, and with this she just has to put it in the system and then someone responds to it. So it's so fast and efficient that way. And like the other reason I think that this has been so great is, as a church, we get approached by families all the time with various needs, stuff like, I need a coat. And I think, okay, I would love to give you a coat. And then I talk to them a little bit more, and I realize you need so much more than a coat. Like, you do need a coat for, but you're underemployed. Your rent is 90% of your income. You're dealing with medical issues. You are so fragile. Like, you don't need a coat, you need a caseworker and someone who can come and walk you through this. And with this program, we're able to, I've referred 2 people to success today, actually, who called me, and I was like, I can't help you with this, but you need someone who can walk you through this. So they do that, and then when they find the family who, you're doing great, you're on this plan, you're being successful, but you've run into this barrier, they put the barrier into Care Portal, and we come along and meet it. And we build a circle around that family. And so we're just very excited about the fact that we've been able to come together. We've got about 8 churches. There are other community responders who are just individuals in the community who come on and meet needs. So we've been able to serve 712 kids. I think as our network continues to grow, we're going to be able to meet even more and have an even bigger impact. Since we started this, we've had other schools in the county. Middletown's the very first agency in Butler County to start using this, and other schools have started noticing what we're doing. Fairfield has already enrolled. We've got Lakota and Hamilton and all of these other people looking at what's going on in Middletown and saying, how do we get that? So we're really excited to be able to bring that across the board, but I'm super excited that they're looking at Middletown because I'm Midian, I love it. So not only are other schools looking at this, but Care Portal has also noticed what we were doing. They've been watching our numbers, and last month at their annual meeting, out of thousands of communities across the nation, they gave Middletown the Community of the Year award. So we're very excited about that. And we actually have some plaques for Mr. Stiles and for the success liaisons. You guys should come up here so we can give this to you.
more of this view. Okay. You gotta hold the eyebrows and the smiles.
Thank you for coming. All right.
Can they introduce themselves and what school?
Yes. Yes.
Encore.
Hi, I'm Lauren Daycoff, and I'm at Miller Ridge Elementary. Hi, guys. I'm Julie Kaito, and I'm at Mayfield Elementary.
So pass it down.
Hi, I'm Kristen Stewart. I am at the middle school.
Hi, I'm Paula Egebrecht. I'm at Wildwood Elementary.
Hello, I'm Carissa Moore. I'm at Middletown High School. And I'm Cindy Smith. I'm at Central Academy. Milo Perry at Rosa Parks Elementary.
Hi, and I'm Carrie Wynn, and I oversee the liaisons.
They are amazing. Love working with them. So if you guys have any questions about Care Portal or how that works or any of that, I can answer.
I guess, oh,
You have a number of churches that are in your, partnered with you. Do they check the site every day and see what needs are there, or how do they get connected?
So they can do it that way. They also can get email notifications. So anytime a new need goes in there, it goes to
Okay.
their email.
Okay.
How many churches do you have connected so far?
Right now we have 8 in Middletown, I think 5 in Fairfield. And then there's a couple like in the surrounding areas who will sometimes meet needs in Middletown as well. There's a few in Springboro, I know offhand, that will also connect with us sometimes.
And how are the churches notified? How do they know how to connect?
So we have monthly meetings, networking meetings that we do try to invite new churches into. The churches already in our network come to those as well, and so do the liaisons. So we get to all kind of brainstorm together on how things are doing and how we can do it better. And those are always things that we try to invite people into as well. Those are the first Wednesday of every month at Atrium Y at 10:30.
just a comment, it appears that you've impacted over 10% of our entire student population, if my math is correct, and our enrollment is still what I think it is, and that's an impressive number within a year to impact over 10% of all the students who call themselves Middletown Middies. And so thank you to all the folks involved, the liaisons that are on the ground floor who are interacting. I'm curious, like, just as general community members, if you have coats and those are you overly inundated with items like shoes and coats, or is there a bank of items that as a group that you just, as winter approaches, start to warehouse and the need when it arises?
So we do partner with some groups that like provide those things, but also like if a person, one thing that's kind of nice about this is if I say my kid grows out of her coat, I can actually go on to Care Portal and do like a keyword search and see if there's anyone out there right now who needs a coat. So it also works that way. I don't know if that answers your question exactly.
I guess,
but-
if I'm out at Costco and
Yeah.
they have coats for $5 and I can buy 10 coats for $5 or $50, is there like a resource to where you would bring those in and be like, hey, here's these coats? Or is it something that the capacity of this, there's no storage, there's no place to kind of
Well,
utilize that?
so-
Is that how this works? Or, because I also heard your example, like a mechanic or if someone's homeless, it seems like there's an array of needs, that it might
Yes.
not always be shoes and clothing.
Right.
That there could be other things.
Yeah. So churches will kind of decide if they want, whether they want to do that or not. Our church we've always kind of collected coats, and then we actually donated the last of them to the Success Liaisons this year. So they will always take coats, and they'll store them at the schools. They will definitely take your coats. But that was something we did for a while because we'd seen it as a need. There's some other churches that have like warehouses where they'll keep furniture and things like that. So that's one thing that happens with this is sometimes you'll see, oh, there seem to be a lot of needs on here for this particular thing. And then churches can look at that and say, maybe we should build a ministry around this particular item or service or need that comes up on here. Just one of the ways this really helps like find some of the gaps in what we have available in Middletown is, well, what needs keep getting missed? We could start building something out from that.
Yeah. Good. Thank you.
Yeah.
So the best way for a family or parent to connect with Care Portal right now is through the Success Liaisons?
Yes.
Okay.
I just want to take a quick second and just talk about the harmony amongst all the partnerships, right? You're talking about a platform and organization, Care Portal, but then also our faith-based community, different partners throughout the community, as well as our Success Liaisons. The success of this is dependent on all those partners, right? All those agencies being harmonized at the table for the same cause. I think it's pretty special what Megan and the team has been able to accomplish in 1 year. I don't want to turn the microphone off until I say our Success Liaisons are knocking it out of the park. What they're doing for our families deserves to be recognized. And in this particular effort, their investment has been monumental. So I just want to give them high praise right now while they're here in person, because a lot of the times they're behind the scenes, and not many folks know who they are. So I'm so glad they got recognized tonight. They're doing unbelievable work.
Thank you again.
That's all I have. Thank
Appreciate
you.
you and
Thank you.
appreciate each of you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions, highlights, concerns regarding tonight's consent agenda?
I just want to highlight real fast the field trip that's on there for Newport Aquarium, for our zoology course, our ESSER funds, and a learning recovery plan that the board did approve. Some of those funds are being used for student experiences. It's nice to see our zoology class getting out into the community down at the aquarium in Newport to be able to not only get experiences around some content and coursework, but also some experience around different career opportunities related to the field.
Just on that topic, my daughter came home last week and was like, hey, I get to go on another field trip. And so she's noticed and appreciates it. She's like, there's more field trips in middle school than there are in elementary school. And so I think the kids do recognize and appreciate the chance to get out into the world. I do notice a $2,500 donation to the Middletown Mid-State Art Department from the Greater Cincinnati Foundation Governing Board. Appreciate their contribution to our district. I think we're ready, Mr. Bertram.
All right. Dr. Urso,
Yes.
Mrs. Stewart,
Yes.
Mrs. Schreiber,
Yes.
Mrs. Mulligan.
Yes.
Under Human Resources this evening, there's an agreement for National Web Check Program Services and Equipment. Is there a motion for approval?
What is this?
We're going to get into that after.
Okay, I move to approve it.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
What is this?
Yeah, every 5 years, we get a new contract with the National Web Check Program Services, and this is where we do our background checks. So a very important piece. Without it, we don't get employees.
Yeah.
All right, and so is this something we approve every year?
Every 5.
Every 5 years?
Yes.
I got you. All right. Other questions? We need employees. Yes, I think we're ready for a
All
vote.
right. Mrs. Stewart,
Yes.
Mrs. Schreiber,
Yes.
Mrs. Mulligan.
Yes.
Dr. Urso.
Yes. Committees, from our last meeting to now, Mr. Stiles, have any committees convened and need to? be-
Yeah, we've had a couple committees meet. Dr. Urso, if you want to give the update on the community center, just a few moments. But I know there was a district leadership team meeting that Ms. Scheibert and Ms. Mulligan were able to attend. I was not in attendance for that meeting. So if you two would like to just share a few comments about your participation and what the content was, please.
Go ahead.
You want me to start? Okay. Well, there was a lot that went on, and overwhelming amount of data and discussion, and sort of every school team comes knowing this data inside and out that they've had, and the discussions they had. And it was very interesting for me, although it went by so fast. We had to ask Mrs. Hauser if she could please send us some copies of that so we could look at it. Each school team took their state testing data and broke it down into what they have. They know who's on what level of proficiency, and then they had to come up with 2 strategies that they are going to focus on within their school. And there were lots of interesting things. Every school was different. Then every school team, and we got to jump in wherever and travel around and listen to the discussions and what other people saw in this data. And some interesting feedback were some of the things that impressed me. And I asked, there was a specific team at one school, the 3rd grade. They're going to go together in team on teaching math. They feel like they can be more effective in how they approach all the different groups of levels of students if they group together and have that. And I told that principal, I'd love to come and see that when you get that. And she said it's in operation now, but it's the one school we didn't get to visit that we had to cancel out. So we need to put that back on the list because I'd like to see that. Other things, we also, I'm trying to think. They look at the data, especially of the underperforming children. But the note was made, even though we see kids moving forward, we can't forget the ones who are already proficient and up. We're moving those too. And their belief is that we are on board for 50% proficiency in the schools, which I think is an amazing thing, because today I heard on the news that schools nationally are bemoaning the fact that the kids have lost so much during the COVID time. I think it's a much brighter picture in Middletown as far as moving. We have lost. Everybody lost during that time, but I think things are moving forward. And I'm impressed with how intensely these school teams have delved into the data and know specifically their children at grade level, who needs this and who needs that. I think it's very impressive, the work they've done. It's obvious, because the group that I walked around with, they said, yeah, for this one, they named a child. For this one, we're going to, we want to put him in this particular scenario so he can get better. And this one, we're going to do this. So they know who needs what, and they are really focusing in. I was so impressed with how far that each team has delved into what they know about their school.
Yeah, Ms. Scheibert's really highlighting the leadership thinking behind how we're generating improvement. We've celebrated some of the gains and improvements, both student growth and achievement, in our report card data. We are poised as a district, as I've shared with the board previously here at a board meeting, that we are targeting 3rd and 4th grade math and 5th grade ELA, high school ELA 2, to be at a 50% achievement rate this school year. So no, we've talked in the past about trying to recover, trying to increase student growth. We're actually talking achievement, and you felt that in a district leadership team meeting just last week. Ms. Mulligan, did you have any other takeaways?
Well, just to clarify, that the team from each building consisted of the principal and what they called the lead teacher, or the teacher mentors, and they were there. But of course, the whole building staff is involved in their implementing the strategies that they came up with. I was gratified to see, if not openly, then by inference, some attention to algebra in the early grades. The National Council of Teachers of Mathematics started talking about that in 1988, and here we are, how many years later. But it was gratifying to see that algebra ideas and algebra thinking are part of the strategies in some of the buildings. They ranged from some traditional things to the more progressive, and I was really proud of how they came up with these ideas. And they're tailored to the individual schools and their resources. So it was a very, very good meeting. They all are.
And it was a lot of sharing too, because every school team went around
and commented on each school's plans and their, how they handled their data. So you got a lot of feedback too, a lot of things to work on. But I was just so impressed with all the thinking that's going on here. So I'm well aware that all these teachers are looking at this information. This is not just information that comes in and gets filed somewhere. It's being looked at.
The only thing I'll share with the board, as far as committee reports, before we talk about the board's committee, being the community centers, on October 12th, the board had a chance to get out and visit some of our schools. We do some fall board visits. Ms. Stewart will be able to wrap you into the next round of these. We're able to visit Middletown High School, Highview 6th Grade Center, Mayfield Elementary, and Miller Ridge on October the 12th. Next up, I know we have a second date. We'll probably add 2 dates and just do 3 buildings instead of 6. Just trying to chop that down a little bit for the sake of travel. But just wanted to give our 3 board members who were present on the 12th just to share any reflections you had from those 4 building visits.
I'm going to speak first because they always talk first and I have nothing left. And so I'm going to upstage them real quick. At the high school, was just thoroughly impressed with Mr. Pierce's English course. They were doing a project on MASH, the TV show from the 1970s, and seeing how engaged he is as an educator. You can tell that he just loves his work, and the kids respond to him. It's always nice to see Miss Cotter and the energy she brings. Mrs. Keel at Mayfield she knows the ins and outs of that building. It's obvious. The high school and the middle school and the 6th grade center, you walk through and they're happy kids. And happy adults. And I know that we're walking through and maybe we get their best side. But they weren't masking it, I don't think.
I don't think so.
I don't think so. And so you always, are keen to the environment that they're in, and engaging with the kids just on a one-on-one level, just really neat. I can tell you, if I was in Mr. Bruner's music class that he teaches at Mayfield, I might have been a musician. Probably not, but I would have had a better chance. The energy he brings, the art teacher, the chant, and just how engaging the projects they were doing, the STEM that was being done at Mayfield. It was just an impressive day to walk through that elementary school. Highview's energy, understanding that school, it's a difficult space. That year is a hard year, transitioning between elementary and then moving on to middle and high school. It's a difficult age for all of us. And that school seems to be moving along. The leadership there seems to be very strong. That were my takeaways.
Well, you didn't get to go to Miller Ridge.
I know.
Where we were escorted by
the
a
kids.
group of children that were just delightful. Kathy, you want to talk about that a little bit?
Well, they knew their stuff, and they were very proud of their building and what was going on. They pointed out in great detail I think what were those, like planets or something that they had
Yes.
invented?
Yes.
That was nice. I got adopted by a little girl at one of the buildings. She saw me as old and tired and slow and took my hand.
No,
And-
you were closest to her size.
Well, she was a kindergartner, and they were headed to another room. They were being taken from their regular kindergarten room down the hall. And she escorted me down there and make sure that I got seated at a chair. And then she tried to push my chair in for me. I mean, they're happy kids, delightful kids. And the English class that Chris talked about, they were somehow tying the dialogue in MASH to Hamlet. And, well, I was impressed by even that idea. It just seemed like things were going well. I was proud of all of it.
I think-
Well, it's good. It's good stuff going on.
And I don't think anybody was faking anything. These kids were interested in enjoying what they were doing. I was also impressed with some of the things. I have a bias here, because some of the things that the elementary school counselors were doing, the places they have for kids to kind of decompress when they're having trouble. And sometimes the best thing is to just have a place to just stop and blow a little steam off, or just get away from people for a little bit. But those kids weren't. They were engaged. That high school English class, there wasn't one person slumped over not paying attention. That was an exciting place to be. And the little ones too. They were all, and they could tell if we stopped and talked, they could answer questions for us at every building. At every single building. They knew what was going on. And that's what I've always been impressed with. These children are very aware what's happening in their class and they can explain it. So good things are going on if that happens with children.
That's great.
Yeah.
We saw a lot of implementation of hands-on learning. Those kids who are building things with those, everything, they working with tools and using their creativity and collaborating with each other and saying, well, that won't work, but let's try this. I mean, it was good.
It was cute, and there was one group, and that at Mayfield, I think it was that one room we went into, where all these kids were just slinging things. There were about 5 kids in this group, and they were tearing things apart and trying to figure it out and talking over each other. And this little girl, very quietly, they were trying to figure something out, how they could get this one piece attached. Nobody could figure it out. This one little quiet girl sat there the whole time, and nobody was paying much attention to her, and all of a sudden she said, I know how it goes on, and she hooked it right on. And the rest of them. It's fun to watch. It's fun to watch.
It's always a joy to be in schools,
Yes.
and especially when the atmosphere is positive.
Did the board want to share any reflections around the Passport to Tomorrow course that you were able to get into? Just knowing it's corrected a heavy part of our strategic vision.
You mean
the P2T class?
Oh, yeah, that's the one I was talking about, where the little girl where they were working on, everybody had a table that they were assigned to, and they were trying to solve a problem. They all had a problem to solve, and it was so interesting to watch. But that was the most fascinating to me, you know, the takeovers in the group, you know, those kids that always, they want to dive in and be the leader. And this little girl just very quietly sat there and listened and watched and said, if you just put it on like this, it'll work. I loved it.
The board had a chance to see the students working on some specific skill sets connected to Passport to Tomorrow. They were working on perseverance, problem solving. So it was neat to see the focus in that particular activity around just skill sets, but also the exposure to the career field, right? Engineering, industrial manufacturing as a focus as far as career opportunities connected to those skill sets being.
And that's all around the room, too, so they know what they're
Right.
doing. They know why they're in there. It's not just a place to go play with games and things like that. They have a purpose.
Yeah, posters up with the career field and the requirements for it. They learn that, they get into that early.
I'll just close just for the board for future planning. Our next set of building visits are scheduled for February 8th, 2023. We'll start about 9:30 in the morning again.
I'm already registered.
We'll make sure that we get you an invite. Career Center?
What's that?
Or Community Center?
Community Center, yeah, we met, it's been a little while since we met, and so just remembering that meeting, the timeline is a big piece of that project, understanding that with the ESSER funds, that we have a certain date by which we have to spend those down. I expressed some concerns in terms of the budget. Last winter, I think it was last winter, we went through the different iterations on what 12 million, 10 million, 8 million, and so forth will buy you in today's climate in regards to the cost of materials. I think we're sitting just over 8 million currently in our budget. To really capture what I believe would be a true community center, I think that budget would need to be closer to $10 to $12 million. There are ideas how to bridge that gap between the 10 and the 12, or the 8 and the 12. It's just seeing if those things happen in the time necessary to make the design process, all those things work in tandem. Brandstetter was in attendance. They were by computer, by Zoom, and we're able to engage the committee into trying to think through, do we need project managers and so forth, a part of that project to be able to keep us on budget, on time. But the cost of such is going to be a balancing act for us, because do we spend more to do that piece or have more to invest into the actual facility? Are there people locally, either within our district or within the city, that can ascribe to some of those responsibilities instead of outsourcing it to somebody? The cost per square foot is still pretty comparable to what we were initially thinking as we went through that process. I think over the coming weeks and months, the timeline will be that piece, and we'll start seeing things as to actually what it will look like. And there was conversations around having different kind of a tiered approach, that stage 1, 2, and 3, of which could have some benefit opportunities to kind of raise some capital. But I'm one that when you go in and do it, it's more efficient to have everything up front and be able to do that. And so the city's probably tired, the people are tired of probably hearing me ask and plead to kind of make sure that we focus on that budget. I saw our local health official commissioner here tonight in support of our new board member. And it reminded me that where that community center is located is the heart of where our community needs support. Much of what you spoke about, there's a lot of need in the community, and that community center has a possibility to be a hub, a place to where we can do outreach and support families and kids if done well. And so I'm going to continue to argue and push to make sure our budget's able to satisfy whatever need is out there. Questions regarding that? And I know it's nice as a board member who's a part of that committee to also now have Ms. Stewart, who's a part of that project in a very intimate way. She's worked there for many years. To have her insight, I think, will be valuable to the board as we kind of walk through this process. We were thoughtful of that part because that's a big piece
That's
of
a
what
big
we're
piece,
doing
yeah.
here, and we want to make sure we get it right.
Great.
I just want to toss out, going back to our legal brief we got from Frost Brown Todd around superintendent committees. We do need to have a conversation at some point about replacing committee members from the board's representation for Ms. Novak. Not that we need to go through all 4 of those placements for tonight. I do think one I'd like to toss out for conversation tonight would just be around Butler Tech representation from the Middletown Board of Education. Just because from a timely standpoint, there are board meetings that are happening at Butler Tech, and to make sure we have a representative there from Middletown City Schools would be ideal. So didn't know if the board had any interest in a conversation tonight. I just thought of that on the spot, so I apologize for bringing that up.
Well,
I think the other committees that Ms. Novak said, I don't think we have time to kind of digest our way through. But just wanted to toss that out as a potential
I think at the last time Mr. Moore was here, he asked that, or he commented that perhaps Mrs. Novak would like to continue on that since it doesn't have to be a board member. So I didn't know if that was still up for grabs.
I know Mrs. Novak, I think, has some travel plans, is what I've heard, and so I don't know in terms of her schedule, and that's something that she would be able to ask.
She did mention to me that she is leaving the end of this month for a period of time.
Yeah, and so that would be my one concern, is that
Yes.
it would be a stretch for her to attend.
Well, I just didn't know if that was,
And I thought Ms. Stewart was really excited about joining that. Just kidding. That board. When do they meet?
I'm looking that up as we speak here. I know I looked it up once before, but
Or I could reach out in the coming days and have some
Yeah.
dialogue with the board about who might be interested. That way I can get back with Superintendent Graff about our replacement.
Yeah, well, I think by the next meeting, we'd have time to kind of figure that piece out.
Okay.
may I make one more comment too? I know you already complimented these success liaisons that are still here, but I don't know that they realize, I guess they do or they wouldn't do this, but the difference that one thing can make in a kid's life toward their learning, yeah, I've seen it, and I don't think you know the importance that you have on that whole learning process for these little guys. I hope you do. I want you to know that it makes such a difference, such a very big difference. We may not think it's much, but it's part of their learning. It's part of their learning process. So thank you, too. I wanted to say thank you because you're the people that get the job done.
You can continue on with board reports, and you can lead us in regards to board reports. I think that's the last thing on the agenda, is it? Anything else? Then Ms. Schreiber, board reports.
That's all I have.
That's all you have?
That's all I have.
Well, that was a big one. Good
Mhm.
one.
I think it's a very big one.
I agree. Ms. Stewart, anything to report this evening?
I do not have anything to report, but I would like to ditto a thank you to the Success Liaisons. I have worked with the Success Liaisons for many years now, and the work that you do is so impactful and so important, and you make it very seamless and easy to work with organizations as well as the families you serve. So thank you very much.
Back to the success liaisons again, I echo I confirm what everybody said so far. I first became aware of your work when the Middletown Community Foundation was running the Ready campaign. We became acquainted with the work that you do, and everybody was so impressed. We from then on, were hopeful that we would be able to have a success liaison in every building. And your connections seem to fit very well with the care that Megan just talked about, you handle that. I do have a question, since you're a captive audience here. Are you the folks that people approach if they need clothing, like from Middletown area, neediest youth? Do you make references for that? Okay. Many, M-A-N-Y, Middletown area needs you. Okay, all right. So I work with the many people, so I can take the good news back to them that you're kind of branching out to a lot of connections, and I'm very proud of you for doing that, because our kids need you.
We appreciate that. We appreciate the Mandy funds as well. So great.
Well, thank you for all you do.
I have a variety of things. I wrote all kinds of notes, and so you can sit back. It won't be that long. I want to congratulate our band. I know this past week or two, they were awarded Grand Champion, Best Auxiliary, Best Music, Best Visual, Best General. I think Best Everything is everything I saw on that. And they get to compete, I think, on Saturday in Columbus. I know the band, sometimes musicians in general are sometimes overlooked. And I want them to know our folks who marched in the summer to prepare for the season, who've gone out every football game and competed, the parents who are running around that stadium trying to get things organized, to our teachers who are every day engaging our young folks. My son is practicing and I hear all the folks in the percussion off to the side and I'm like, oh, that sounds nice. And so there's a lot there, and those kids deserve the recognition that they are receiving, and the adults who are attached to that program deserve equal acknowledgement and thanks. Would also like to raise up, I know Sophia Witt, Lonnie Pennington, and Taylor Hall were each in here a few weeks ago and did a cheer for us. They're all varsity cheerleaders, and they were athletes of the week this week. And I believe you were telling me, Mr. Stiles, that Lonnie Pennington was getting kind of a nudge to go cheer at Central State. And so if Lonnie is listening, or somebody who knows Lonnie is listening, let him know that he was spoken about this evening at the meeting and that we know. And we would be excited for him to go visit Central State and go cheer for Central State, because we know the kind of young man, the smile he brings and the energy he has and the future that is before him. And so congratulations to Sophia, Lonnie, and Taylor. I would like to also, I saw this on Twitter today, that the Osborne family restaurants are going to provide food to our high school basketball team for the entire season. Very generous for them to offer food. Those are some big young people. I'm sure they can eat a lot of food. And for them to donate that for the season is appreciated and recognized by the board and the district. Our football team's going to be at the Pit at Elder, I believe. I think we're banged up a little bit at the quarterback spot, but I think we'll show well. Somebody wearing purple is going to win in that game, and so hopefully it's Midi purple, and I wish them the best as they go down there. Kyle Schwarber, of course, Middletown grown, Middletown pride, is going to represent us as they play the Astros in the World Series. It's always nice to see him, and I mean, he's all over the place. People like him for good reason. He's always fun to listen to in his interviews, and we're proud as Middletown folks to have somebody like that. Our esports team, I noticed they're out there making noise, and I appreciate their work. And just the last thing, I know, Ms. Stewart, you're a part of the board, and I mentioned this earlier. Wanted to thank the folks who signed up and interviewed and went through that process to be considered for the Board of Education. I mean, everyone says, oh, it's a thankless thing and this and that, but people sign up, and I appreciate you signing up, and I appreciate those folks taking the time to come and interview really neat people. We live, and I think they mentioned too, in a town that people care and people do things, and you can see it when those folks interviewed, that there's truly a desire to do good, and appreciate that. I don't think it would operate well having a board of 20, and so we had to choose. And unfortunately, there are some really good choices that we just didn't have the capacity to serve. So thank you to them.
I will say Great Oaks Board of Education has 35 members on it.
Yeah, sounds like fun.
Yes, yes. So, yeah, we're fortunate to have the 5 we have, so very thankful there. And welcome, Verlena.
Thank you so much. I do want to, I want to thank the board for your vote of confidence. I am super excited to be here. I'm grateful, and it's for me, it's a heart move for sure. and I just hope to serve well. I do want to thank the folks that came out to support me tonight. It's very much appreciated, and thank my sister, Jackie Phillips. And I'd like to also just acknowledge Marie Edwards, who is in the audience over the out-of-school program, and give a kudos to the out-of-school program because Marie was notified last week that we'll be visited by the state of Ohio in recognition of the entrepreneurship work that we're doing with the out-of-school program. That's good. That's very good.
And by the way, ELA stands for English Language, what? Arts. Okay. I don't know why that popped into my brain. It was very spontaneous, but you know how I am about initials.
Some more Butler Tech information. They meet on the third Tuesday of every month, 5:30. Their next meeting then will be November 15th at 5:30, and they do meet in their main building. I always say by SWOCA, but actually SWOCA's by them, but yeah, it's the primary
When's our next
building
meeting,
there.
Mr. Bertram?
Pardon me?
When's our next meeting? Will it be prior to then or after that?
We're going to talk about that in a second. Hopefully a day prior, but
Yeah,
we'll talk
that
about
was-
that in a minute. And it is a paid position, just as this is as well, just so you're aware of that. And I think they have 10 board members on there, so you'll be one of 10 if you do volunteer for that. And you stole my thunder tonight, Chris. I wanted a big shout out to former Middie, well, once a Middie, always a Middie, Kyle Schwarber. I've always been a big Cleveland Indians fan, and now I watch the Phillies more than I watch the Cleveland Indians. And he reminds me of my favorite all-time player, Jim Thome, left-handed, big bat. And when I saw Kyle hit the 488-foot one this past week, 120 mile an hour off his bat, I think he's become my favorite player. He is, that's really impressive. So good luck to the Phillies in the World Series, and I know he'll show well for us.
A few pieces. November 8th is our next personalized learning day. So again, just a reminder for our community. Be on the lookout again for all the communication coming out of the district and building levels around November the 8th. Similar to what we did our first personalized learning day. We talked about wonderful experiences and opportunities for our children the last board meeting. Just be on the lookout. Please engage. Please personalize your day. Students get involved. There are a lot of wonderful experiences for you we have planned for November the 8th. So special thank you to everyone internally and externally who's helped design those days. Also want to shout out all of our fall extracurricular programs, the student participants and the adults attached to those programs. And just want to wish our winter extracurriculars best of luck as they get geared up. I know I used to get a little bit of anxiety walking into basketball tryouts. But once I got that first layup in, or once I missed that first layup, it really started to calm down. I too want to just welcome Ms. Stewart to the table. Excited to be able to work alongside of you, learn from you, and be pushed as a leader to better serve the district. Just excited to have you at the table, so special welcome. Be putting you into Fab 5, so when the number pops up, please answer the phone. We make sure we start wrapping into some communications. Last but not least, I'm going to try to sound just as excited as Kyle Schwarber plays. The man really inspires me to watch the energy in that dugout. I know you're not supposed to be that excited in baseball, but it is a thrill to watch the Phillies play. I've been practicing this Kyle Schwarber thing that he does after he drops bombs. Kyle, go get him, bring home your second World Series. We'll be ready to celebrate you when you get back here in Middletown. Go Phillies.
My brother's going to be mad if I don't mention Curtis Fowler and Bree Boyle, two cross-country folks who have a chance to run for state. At the regional in Troy, I think Curtis placed 16th, ran a 16:22, and Bree was 6th with a 19:07. And so again, if my brother's watching or somebody attached to cross country can let him know that I did my duty. And in all honesty, Bree and Curtis, I see them running around Middletown all the time. There's a reason why they're so good. They're running all over the place. And so good luck to the both of them as they go and compete.
Mr. Bertram, I wanted to share one last conversation with the board about a potential date change for our November board meeting. Due to some schedule conflicts that both he and I have, not being available on the evening of the 21st, wanted to propose if the board would be interested in moving that board meeting to November the 14th.
I could do that.
My Monday nights are, I don't do things on Monday night because I know this, and so I should be okay.
The only
I'm fine.
Yeah, the only conflict is Capitol Conference, and Verlene and I are talking about that, but I will come back for the meeting, because I do have to present the 5-year forecast
Okay.
as well. And, of course, Verlene come back with me if she desires, if we're there on that Monday, but we'll work that out.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to that.
Marlon, would you say a few words about, I forget what it's called, but the invitation to, where we're supposed to invite people to go on a school tour, what are you calling that?
Sure, I'll promise to talk about that as long as we can come back and see if you're good for the 14th.
Yeah, I'm good for 14.
Perfect. We do have our MIDI road trip, MIDI XL road trip scheduled for the next couple weeks. We'll be kicking off here on October 31st, November the 3rd, November the 15th, and November the 16th off the top of my head. Got a thumbs up from Ms. Beadle. This is just an opportunity for our community to get inside of our schools. Just like the board had a chance to visit schools back on October the 12th, it's a great opportunity for our community members to get into our schools to see what our student experience is every single day. We have space for 100 community members each day. We have 3 different tracks planned, so all 10 schools will be visited. Safety protocols are being put into place in collaboration with our school resource officers. We feel very confident there. But this is about showcasing the wonderful things that our district is doing and the kids' experiences every single day. So if you're interested, feel free to jump on our website. All the information is there. The link is there to click and register. We would love to welcome you inside of our schools. That way you can form your evidence-based opinion about what's really happening in Middletown City School. That just like the board had wonderful experiences, we're excited to give our community the exact same experience.
Can I call that the MRT?
We're going to call that MIDI XL Road Trip 2022.
Okay, thank you.
It'd be a long acronym.
All right. Any last things? If there are none, then Mr. Bertram.
We'll need a motion in a
Is
second.
there a motion for adjournment? It's been a long night.
Second.
All in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Have a good evening. You stole that from me. How'd you get that?